Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for coming back to another video. If this is the first video guys, please consider hitting that subscribe button, smashing that like button, and definitely leave a comment, right? All the returning subscribers, thank you guys so much for coming back to another video. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you much for the love. Thank you guys for the support. And you know what guys, thank you guys so much for making this community what it is. We have a growing community and we cannot do it without you guys. So of course guys, I'm here by myself today again, and I'm doing another sit down video for you guys. And what am I talking about today guys? I will be talking about the difference between living in a small city or a big town, small city or a big city in Canada, right? So many people are always reaching out to me, many persons are always reaching out to me, hey, do I think it's better to start in a small town, or do I think the big city is where it should be? No, of course guys, there's no straight answer to this question, and everything that I share here is based on my own opinion. Being that I've lived in a small town and I have friends who reside in big city, and I've also have a lot of experience in both, right? So definitely that's what I'll be talking about with you guys today. Now of course guys, I am in the province of Alberta. Everything is different whichever province you go to, so you have to take that into consideration as well. Now the first thing I would like to say is, if you're thinking of migrating to Canada guys, what you want to make sure is that you do your research. Firstly, you want to make sure that wherever you're going, you have done enough research, so your transition will be easier, your transition will be smoother. Whether you choose to go to a big city or a small city, make sure that you have done enough research, which will make your transition so smooth that inadvertently it doesn't really matter where you are, right? Now, of course, where I'm living in Grande Prairie, which is 5 hours away from Edmonton, which is the capital of Alberta. Now, many people are always asking me, why did I choose to live in Grande Prairie? And also, is there any difference or similarities in terms of the small city or the big city? Now, to the first question is, why did I decide to live in Grande Prairie? Now, guys, I'll answer that question by saying, this is all Nat's idea, right? Being here in Grande Prairie, at first it wasn't the first destination that we had in mind, but seeing that Nats had family here, that's why we decided, it makes sense to just move to Grande Prairie. It was somewhere that we have never heard of before. And yeah, do I regret moving to Grande Prairie? Absolutely not. Now, living in Grande Prairie for the past 3 years, it has taught me a lot. I've gotten a lot of experience that I don't think I would have necessarily gotten in a big city. Now, if you're conflicting with yourself where to move to, a small town or a big city, then I would say it depends on what you're looking for. Now, and I tell you what, the first thing I'd like to say, ask you to look at is job availability. The second thing would be cost of living, which includes housing, real estate, accessibility to grocery, public transportation, and stuff like that, right? Now, factor in all of these things in your decision and then let that be your guide. Now, for example, guys, if it is that you're living in Edmonton, which is, of course, a bigger city here in Alberta, one of the biggest city in Alberta, actually, then you'll definitely have more access to more things. It's a city which has over 1 million people, right? So you'll definitely have access to more businesses. You'll have access to more culture, pretty much. So if you're from Jamaica, like I am, you'll definitely find more Jamaican restaurants. You'll find more stores that sell Jamaican products, and you'll feel closer to home, right? You'll also have more diversity because there's more people. So inclusion is a big deal there as well. So you'll find a lot more persons who look like yourself, right? So you'll find a lot of black people, a lot of Indians, a lot of Filipinos, of course a lot of Caucasians. It's just a melting pot of cultures, just like any other big city here in Canada, right? Public transportation is relatively easy because you do have transit, which is train. You have public buses, and you have taxi services as well as Uber and stuff like that. You have many things to do, guys. You have like shopping malls, big shopping malls and stuff like that. Edmonton has the second largest shopping mall in the world, by the way. And there's tons of things to do. Now, those are the strengths. What are the weaknesses in living in a big city? The fact that you have more people there, guys, it means that jobs are there, but there's more competition to get jobs. So in terms of you have to be competing with more people to get jobs. So obviously that makes the job search a lot more difficult. So if you move to a big city, it's gonna be more difficult for you to land that job that you really want, because simply you have a lot more competition. And if it is that you're a new immigrant, you're going to be competing with people who have already been here for a number of years, or persons who are already Canadian. So you have to take that into consideration. Also, guys, it's demand and supply. Because you have an overwhelming amount of people there, it simply means that the demand is oftentimes greater than the supply, which causes prices to go up, which includes the real estate, the renting, mortgages, and all of those stuff. So if it is that you decide to move to a big city, you have to be more prepared to know that, okay, renting is going to be more expensive, and also cost of buying a house and every single thing is going to be a little bit more expensive, because there's more people, right? Take that into consideration. Now, in the job market, guys, say for example you have gotten a job, what I've noticed is that in the bigger city, guys, it is harder to grow up, to grow up the ladder, simply because there's more people, right? And also that you're in a workplace, you're just a number, because there's somebody can just be waiting to just replace you just like that. So you're not really as valued. And not to say that you're not valued, because obviously you're valued as an employee, but the value that would be placed on you in a smaller city, you will not get that in a bigger city. So I'd say the room for growth is a little bit slower. Not impossible, because you will grow, but it's just that you'll grow at a slower pace in a bigger city than in a small town. Right. So I think that's the pros and the cons. Now, for example, for me now, living in Grande Prairie, which is a small town, I can tell you all about it now. Now, the drawback in living in a small town, guys, is that the many infrastructures and stuff that you would have seen in a bigger city, you're not going to see it in a small town like Grande Prairie. Like, for example, we don't have the big shopping mall. We don't have the overwhelming amount of culture. And also, it's difficult to find, like, Jamaican stuff. And because of that, whenever you find it, it's also more expensive. Again, demand and supply. So when you find it, it's gonna be more expensive because it's scarce, and of course, you know, scarcity, like economic scarcity, drive increase in prices, right? So when it's scarce, it becomes more expensive. So definitely that's something that is definitely a drawback here. Also, is because it's a smaller town, we don't have enough infrastructure. Like, we do have hospitals and stuff, but some services that is available, that some services that you might need, like for example some therapy and some treatments and stuff, you have to still go to the bigger city, because of course not everything is available in a smaller town. So that's definitely a drawback. Now, guys, another drawback is transportation. As a smaller town, you are not going to have as much public transportation as you would have had in a bigger city. So you want to make sure that you take that into consideration as well. Moving to a smaller town, it's more important for you to get a vehicle as soon as possible than in a bigger city. If you're in a bigger city, you can bounce around a little bit. You can take the train, you can take the bus, you can, you know, call an Uber everywhere and just move around very easy. But in a small town, guys, it's not as easy, because one, where we are at, we don't have Uber, we don't have transit. The only thing we have is public buses, and you do have taxi services. Taxi services are very expensive, and the buses stop running at a certain time and start running at a certain time. So that makes moving up and down without a vehicle very, very difficult. In terms of inclusion and diversity, guys, it's not as much in a small town as it is in a bigger city. The fact that there's more people there, guys, as I mentioned, there's more diversity, but in a small town, it's less diverse. So when you see a black person, you are so far and few in between that they can spot you from outer space. Oh, there's a black person, kind of thing, right? So you want to make sure that, okay, they move into a small town, you have to kind of understand that, listen, you are gonna be more of a minority than already you are in Canada. So you want to definitely be prepared for that. You are often gonna be the only color in the room sometimes. In the workplace, you're the only black person. In the schools, you're the only person. If you have kids, your kids is gonna be the only black kid in the school, kind of thing. You want to definitely be prepared for that. Inclusion and diversity is something that is practiced in Canada all around, but in the smaller towns, you have more Caucasian people, so the diversity is not as great. So you want to definitely be prepared for that. And those are some of the drawbacks, I think, in terms of living in a smaller town. You know, you can't get access to certain things. You have to go to the bigger city still, and vice versa. Now, guys, what are the strengths of living in a smaller city, guys, a smaller town? There are so many strengths, guys. Like, the biggest one is cost of living is relatively cheaper in some instances in terms of renting. Is very cheaper because, again, you have more places than people, so people literally willing for rent to them place for less than where they get the same thing for in a bigger city, right? So real estate is very cheap. It's so easy to own a house in a smaller town, guys. If your goal is to create a future for yourself and your family, then moving to a smaller town, as at least as a start, is the best thing to do. One, because you can get a house very easily. You can get you can get renting very cheap because there's just so many options. That's one. The other one, guys, is cost of living. Now, because you're living in a smaller town, guys, many businesses pay what is called Northern Living Allowance, as well as you'll get it in your taxes as well. So you get a certain amount of money per day because you live in what is considered a remote community, right? So you get Northern Living Allowance to offset some of the cost factor in terms of the pricing mechanism, because things have to travel further. And also, most employer, especially here in Grande Prairie, pay more than in Edmonton and other places. So persons who are in Grande Prairie doing the same jobs is earning more than somebody somewhere else in a province, in a bigger city, doing the very same job. So that's definitely something that you want to consider as well, right? So you look at it now. So you're earning more and you are paying less for rent, paying less for stuff like that, right? Now, it kind of squits out, guys, because if certain things is not available. Now, for example, if you want some Jamaican yam, if you want some good food, you have to drive for 5 hours, which I guess, and stuff like that. So it really kind of offset, but it kind of really depends on what you look for, right? The other things, guys, is job availability. There's always jobs here, guys, because you have businesses that are being opened every single day. In, like, for example, a town like Grande Prairie, there are businesses every single day that's being opened. So jobs are always here. It doesn't matter if there's a recession, it doesn't matter, there are always jobs. Your people leave from all around Canada just to come to Grande Prairie, just to be able to get jobs, because there's always jobs. And the fact of the matter is, as I said, employers pay more to keep you here. In addition to that, guys, the room for growth is exponential, because you can just come in as an immigrant, you get a job, you do it for a few months, you prove yourself, and before you know it, you're the manager of that place. Whilst in a bigger city, it will take you a longer time to go up the corporate ladder. So in a smaller city, it's easier to climb the corporate ladder and achieve greater things much faster than in a bigger city, right? So it's easier to move up the corporate ladder. It's easier for own a house. It's easier to get that stability there. I know what also important, guys, is as it relates to immigration goals, right? Smaller cities are usually underpopulated and bigger cities are usually overpopulated. So when you are trying to become a permanent resident, when you apply and you say that you'll be living in a remote community, you have a greater chance of getting approved, of getting approved for a permanent resident than in a bigger city. Not to say that you're not going to get approved in a bigger city, but it's more competition because more persons want to go to the bigger city. So weigh your pros and your cons. Definitely. Now, is there anything else that I forgot to say? Yeah, as also, guys, living in a smaller city, if it is that you're not somebody who enjoys spending time with yourself and with your family, it might not be the best place for you because there's not much things to do, right? There's not much things to do outside of just chilling with your family, going to the park and just family oriented stuff. You can go out and get a drink and stuff like that, but the buzz, the vibe, the energy that you'd be looking for from a big city, you will not find it here. So if you're somebody who like that kind of vibe, then you're gonna be bored. You're gonna be like stuck, right? So unless you can adapt, vice versa, right? So if you're looking for the serenity of life, the simple things, the easygoing, and just growing with your family and accomplishing things, then a smaller city is definitely my recommendation. Now, if it is that you are more of a fast-paced individual who wants access to things and accessibility and traveling around easy and moving things and stuff like that, and stability is not really as important to you, then a bigger city is definitely, yeah, it's definitely for you. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening to me rambling on. I've gone for 16 minutes now. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you're here this long, please hit that like button, guys. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much for the support, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, guys. It really helps me out. Until another video, guys, take care of yourself. Remember, take care of your mental health. It's very important, guys, especially in the world that we're living right now. Be kind to somebody, help somebody, and never be afraid to just be yourself. Thank you guys so much. See you guys in the next video.